I have an interesting topic to talk about. And this is kind of a little bit off my normal routine of making things hot topic based. And maybe this is hot topic, but I want to talk about the law, justice through the law. Well, mostly the law. And there's an interesting thought that comes to mind, and let me know if you guys think that this is accurate. And the thought goes like this: the law does not react to justice, it reacts to peace. The law does not respond to justice, it responds to peace. I want us to sort of think about that for a second. So, what do I mean by that? Well, I remember a specific example in my life where I needed the law. I needed I needed to pursue something that was it was something really bad going on in my life, and somebody doing something to us, and I couldn't do anything about it, and I needed to get law enforcement involved. And I was so blown away at how little they actually did. I was so blown away at how, while while the law is meant to protect the innocent or to help the innocent, it also helps the guilty. That's my experience that I found. I found that to actually accuse somebody of something, you have to go way over and above and beyond to actually make the law do something about it. The law responds to justice. The law responds to the, the law does not react to justice; it reacts to peace. Let me give a kind of sidestep here and give a just a philosophical example. Let's say a crime happens, theft happens. Somebody robs a convenience store. Does the law, will the law prosecute that? Well, if you answer yes, I think we have a disconnect of what we think the law actually does. The law is not some kind of, um, the law does not enact itself on its own. Somebody has to make the law act. So the only way that the thief, the only way that such a situation would pursue justice is if somebody speaks up about it. You see what I'm saying? Is if somebody makes loud noise about it. If somebody goes to the police, and then if the police can't do anything about it, they make an even louder spectacle that somebody needs to do something about this. And until finally the police do something, then the law will come into play. But the law can never just come into play on its own. Somebody has to push it into play. It reacts to, it does not react to justice, it reacts to peace. Once somebody stops pursuing justice for a situation, then the law will stop. The law will no longer be active. You see how this thinking works? So back to my example of something that happened in my life. Um, I really needed to get something done with law enforcement, and oh my goodness, the I had to do so much work just to get somebody to pay attention to me. I had to get so much work to and the benefit here was my experience. The law gives benefit of the doubt to the guilty. The guilty always have benefit of the doubt. If I need to serve a restraining order to somebody, I mean, here's how a restraining order works. You have to basically, I mean, imagine the trauma that somebody goes through to have to feel the need to get a restraining order against somebody. have to go to court, perhaps hire a lawyer, which costs money. And for people who don't have money, that's a very big deal. So you get this restraining order and you finally have it in hand. And you're like, sweet, I finally have this restraining order. That's only half the battle, my friend. That's only half the battle. You have to then serve that restraining order. Are you going to do that yourself? You yourself, who got a restraining order against somebody, you want to give them the restraining order yourself? That doesn't make sense. And then how difficult is it if the person is nowhere to be found? If the person fled, if the person left the city or the state or the country? And this restraining order has no effect until it's actually served. If somebody leaves the country and comes back, the customs agent can't be like, oh, you have a restraining order against you, because it was never served, so it's never actually applied yet. And it just becomes like, in my frustration, I say this, it becomes a joke. The law becomes a joke. Because to serve somebody, you have to, here's how it was presented to me. You have to hire a private agent to go find this person, and then that agent needs to go up to the door, and what if they're living in a condominium with the security itself? You have to call the person, buzz them, and you have to literally say, sir or ma'am, I am here to serve you with a restraining order. Can you please come down and get your restraining order so that it can actually be active? You're saying this to a criminal. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, sir. I'd like to prosecute you. Could you please come down so that I can prosecute you? By the way, if you don't want to come down, I can't prosecute you. Please. Anyways, that was kind of that was the experience that I had. And maybe law enforcement or law savvy individuals watching might have know more to the story of how something can get served, or maybe a statute of limitations, like after a certain time it just becomes active regardless. I don't know, but back to the original theme of the video, none of that would even take place unless I made a fuss about it. If somebody is causing an injustice to me, it doesn't the law doesn't help until I make the law help. And even then, once I make the law help, the law kind of works against me until I push and push and push and push and push until finally, oh my goodness, after all this time and effort and anxiety and money, and finally it can work. So perhaps if we want to express this into hot topics for today in our society and currently present in our society, I would say, to me, it's no wonder why there's such viciousness against how the law works. There's such viciousness with somebody who feels an injustice, or a group or a demographic or a race that feels a complete injustice against themselves. Well, if you're quiet, the law doesn't do anything for you. If you don't prosecute, the law doesn't prosecute on its own. If you don't push things to happen, the law doesn't work on its own. And then once you finally push to make things happen, the law is still pushing against you. How frustrating can that be? It's no surprise to me about riots taking place. It's also no surprise to me as why there would be animosity to cause riots or animosity against the riots. But the bottom line for me is, I don't think anybody is trying to create evil. as I've mentioned before. I don't think anybody's trying to create evil. When I take a moment to sit back and kind of like look at the big picture and say, what kind of obstacles has this group or this person had to go through? And when I look back to my own obstacles of what I've had to go through, it becomes more real, more difficult to I wouldn't say difficult to oppose, but difficult to just write somebody off for having such a reaction. There's a little bit of a brain dump on the topic of law does not respond to justice, it responds to peace. If you got any thoughts on it, let me know. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.